project without running, but this will be as like a third recording.
Yes.
So how's that?
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. All right. Let me just let Noland in. We can start recording. I think everybody's joined. Hi, Noland.
Howdy.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
So I opened the first chapter of my upcoming book with the sentence, "On the morning of January 28th, 2024, inside a hospital room in Phoenix, Arizona, a man who couldn't move his body moved the world." Weeks later, that man, Noland Arbaugh, watched the computer cursor move purely by thought. No muscle, no joystick. That moment marked the end of the old school human communication era and marked the dawn of something entirely new. I have the pleasure of speaking with him today. Noland, how are you?
I'm doing well. That is a great opening line to your book. I love it.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. I've got your endorsement in the first minute of the interview, which is amazing. Thank you. But I really mean that, because the moment where you move that cursor without using any physical input, I think a lot of things changed. I remember at the time there was some media coverage and kind of like came and went. But the people that are paying attention, like myself and many others in the BCI space, this was kind of like the biggest thing that's happened to humanity in a very, very long time. What was that moment like when you actually saw the cursor move and you went, "Wow, I just did that with my thoughts"?
For the first couple of weeks, it didn't really dawn on me how big of a deal it was. If I'm being completely honest, um, it took quite a while for me to realize what was happening and what this meant for the future. Um, there are a couple phrases that we use in BCI: attempted movement and imagined movement. And for the first couple of weeks, it was a lot of attempted movement. I would attempt to move my hand, and it was all getting fed into an algorithm, machine learning sort of stuff, and would output cursor control. And I thought it all made sense. I was like, all
Right.
the neurons are firing in my brain. And so when I try to move something, then they just pick all of that up and translate it into something. And I'm like, that checks out. So it didn't really, it wasn't incredibly like mind blowing to me in any sort of way. It was really cool. It allowed me to do some fun stuff. But the day that I imagined to move the cursor instead of attempting, I didn't try to move my hand in any way. I just thought, I want the cursor to go here, and it moved. I think that's when sort of a flip switched in my brain, and I realized, oh, like this is going to be a lot bigger. This is much more than I thought it was.
Yeah. Wow.
Mhm.
That's really cool. I mean, I'm glad you explained the difference between attempted and imagined, right? Because with imagined movement, so many things are possible, right? I just want to go back to your story, and obviously, I've read a lot about you and what happened to you, and I've listened to your fascinating personal story so many times. The physical side of it is really well documented. All the
Mm.
articles and interviews feature that. I'm really interested in the emotional layer of that story. The accident, what happened after the quadriplegic condition, and kind of you discovering and joining the Neuralink study. Can you talk a little bit about that emotional layer and what you went through um, from the day of the accident to the day of the implant?
I mean, that's 8 years of emotion to cover in a couple of minutes. Geez. Well, let's see. It started out being incredibly hard. As you might imagine, I had lost basically everything that mattered to me. I was incredibly active. I lost the ability to work out and play sports. I was incredibly social. I lost the ability to spend time with my friends and family in any sort of meaningful way. I was incredibly inquisitive. I loved learning. I lost the ability to read a book or go to school. There were just so many things that were taken away from me in an instant. So it was really hard. Not just like all of the things that I could do physically, but what was to come was
Mm.
just up in the air. I knew that my life would be different. I knew that nothing would be easy. And what did that mean as far as where I am in 10 years? Does this mean that I'll never, I'll never get married, have kids? Does this mean that I will never form any sort of like deep connection with another person, friend, family, anything along those lines? Like it just seemed like all of it was just so vague and unattainable, out of my reach in more ways than one. And so I I just managed as best that I could. I A lot of people ask me how I like got through it emotionally. Like what did I do? How did I overcome? And I don't have a good answer. I know that God was at the forefront of all of it, but at the beginning I just tried my best to improve my life one day at a time. At first it was, okay, how do I get off a ventilator? Then it was, okay, how do I manage my pain? And then it was, okay, how do I manage just living day to day life as a quadriplegic? There were so many things I had to adjust to and learn at the beginning that there wasn't a lot of time for thinking about much else. It was just, I was very task oriented. But as soon as I settled in a bit, then came years of just staring at walls,
Mm.
thinking about everything, everything that happened in my past, all the mistakes that I made, all the regrets that I had, all the things I would never do. And it wasn't easy, but somehow, by the grace of God, I managed to work through it all slowly. So I think I stayed fairly positive. I think I was very much of the mind frame that there's no use just wallowing in sadness. It's not going to get me anywhere. I just need to find something to look forward to, find something to do. And I don't know, for 5 or 6 years, I think that that was enough. I found ways to occupy myself. I found ways to work through a lot of the issues that I had. And then came, okay, now that I've sort of conquered this part of me, how do I make my life better?
Mm.
How do I find some way to become independent? And so that led me down about 2 years of just learning every day the best that I could and reconnecting with my faith in a very meaningful way instead of just praying to God and imagining him as some sort of like gumball machine. I put in my quarter and I'd get out a prize. I started reconnecting in a lot of ways with my faith, my family, my friends, and I just wanted to be better. I wanted to stop lying around doing nothing.
Mm.
And after that, Neuralink kind of just fell into my lap. Um, I think I was in a pretty good emotional place, pretty good psychological place at that point, and I think that was all intentional, if I can say that, and in God's plan for my life. I think I needed to go through a lot to be in a place where I could handle what was to come with Neuralink. Um, So it was a lot, man.
Incredible story, man, and thank you for sharing it so openly and honestly. I mean, it's I'm definitely feeling, the depth of your words just then, and I love the arc of how you say it was meant to be. Like Neuralink was meant to find you, or you were meant to find
Mhm,
Neuralink, and this is why this sort of technology is so powerful, and it will continue to add value to people's lives. The the day of the procedure, I guess, when you've done all the testing, and I assume there was a lot of kind of like background work done initially to make sure that you are
mhm.
suitable and the product won't do any harm. When you're lying there in the hospital bed, did any part of you wanted to pause and say, well, hang on a minute, fuck, they're about to drill a hole in my skull. Did you have any hesitancy at all?
Yeah, there was no hesitancy in me, even a little bit. Um, I thought that there would be. I mean, believe me, I thought for months that I was just very okay with things. And it's one of those scenarios, these situations where you think you won't know how you act until you're actually face to face with something. And I thought, okay, I'm not freaking out now for 4 months. I've thought through everything extremely logically. I've thought through, all of the pros and cons. I've thought through the fact that, I'm a quadriplegic. All I have left is my brain, and I'm letting someone go muck around in there. Um, and and I was like, I think I'll freak out at some point. And the night before my surgery, I was lying in a hospital bed, talking with my buddy who got me into the trial, who had called me up and said, "You want to get a chip in your brain?" And I was just sitting there with him, and we were just making jokes. We were living life like I wasn't about to have the biggest surgery of my life the next day.
Yeah.
And I got into the hospital the next day and was getting prepped for surgery and got put into the OR, and I asked if I could pray, and they're like, "Sure," but I didn't freak out ever. It was just
Wow.
it was just like another day at the office sort of thing. I
Yeah,
I really I really can't explain it. It
that's incredible. I
just,
mean,
yeah.
it's such a big, if you look at research out there, most people are actually scared of brain chips and scientists drilling holes into their skull. But you did it with such bravery, and obviously you had a lot of motivation to do that, right? So
Mm,
I read about the surgery a little bit, and it says that it took 2 hours, which is a surprisingly short amount of time, right, for something so big. Um,
yeah.
After the surgery was done and you kind of recovered from it, how did you feel?
Yeah, I make the joke that if I guess if I woke up tomorrow and someone told me I had a chip in my brain and I had lost my memory completely, I would say, "You're wrong, like you're crazy. That doesn't there's nothing up there." It's
Yeah.
exactly how I felt after surgery. It didn't feel like anything was different.
Wow.
I couldn't feel anything. I think there were some, uh, guess, things going on in my body, that could kind of tell me that I just had brain surgery. Um, l- like one thing in particular was it felt like I could hear like a whooshing noise in my ear. And I was like, is something going on? Like, am I hearing like the device? Am I hearing like something? And they're like, nope, it's that's just like common. You just had brain surgery, like things are happening, so don't worry about it. And I'm like, all right,
Nice.
sounds good. But outside of that, no, like and I wasn't in any pain. They prescribed me pain pills and I didn't even take a Tylenol. Like it was just so simple. And
So it's kind
yeah,
of like simple, painless, and feels normal or natural, if you would, afterward.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so say a few months go by and you're used to using the Neuralink, and obviously it's opened up a lot more avenues for you, having it implanted. Um,
Mhm.
One thing I'm interested in, and I read somewhere that there was some sort of troubleshooting along the way, and you were without it for a while. So I want to ask you about those moments when you thought, "Hey, this thing is not working like it should." How did you feel when you were faced with the possibility of not being able to use the chip potentially anymore from that point on?
It was really hard. The day they told me was the day I was set to go and tour Neuralink and meet all of the employees for the first time. And they were rolling out the red carpet. I was going to go tour the whole facility in Fremont. I was going to go like give a speech at the end and do a Q&A, like all sorts of things. And they came to my hotel that morning and we met out in the lobby. They gave me the news that there was thread retraction. And like the threads in my brain were just moving around. They had not stabilized and
Right.
they didn't really know the extent of it, but they didn't know kind of what the next steps were. Leading up to that, the previous maybe 10 days, I had slowly lost control of the device. I just wasn't really able to move a cursor anymore. And it was really hard when they told me. I thought, like, I had seen the potential and it was all going to be taken away from me. I'd seen what maybe my life could be, and 3 weeks in, it was all just gonna come crashing down.
Yeah.
So I got in my van. I had a bit of a cry with my parents and my buddy in the van. I just kind of sat there and cried for a minute, and then I prayed and went and had one of the best days of my life. Um, it was amazing. I just sort of said, God, like, I'm not going to let this ruin my day. I'm going to go and meet everyone and thank them from the bottom of my heart for what they're doing. I'm going to go tell them how incredible all the technology is and how all their work paid off. And then we'll see. Take it from there. And for a few days, I was pretty down in the dumps afterwards. Maybe 3 or 4 days, I was I was just not having a good time. That being said, I did have like develop an infection and I got really sick and was hospitalized. So maybe that had something to do with it. But about 4 or 5 days after they told me, I decided, I was like, look, this is why I'm in the study. I'm in this study for them to learn, for them to find things that aren't quite right and to fix it for everyone coming after me. And so that's what they did. And I said, no matter what, I will be here for whatever you guys need. Even if I can't use the cursor anymore, even if you just leave the implant in and over the next 6 years, you just collect data daily, that's fine. Like, I'll do that. That's what my role was. That's why I took this on, was
Yeah.
to just help. And so I was at complete peace with it. Um, for a
Yeah.
few
Wow.
days it
So
sucked, but yeah,
yeah. So they fixed it, obviously, eventually.
they did. Yeah.
Did they have to take it out and do something and put it back in, or was it more of a software kind of approach?
Yeah, it was all software. They had
Right.
floated the idea of taking it out, fixing it, going in, doing whatever, putting in something else. But that was more on the Neuralink side because they didn't really understand what was happening at that point. The Barrow Neurological Institute, the surgical side, the people who are running the study, um, that side, they said, well, let's just wait. Let's
Right.
wait. You guys see what you can do. See if you can like, you know, twist, like turn some knobs, pull some levers, and see if
Yeah.
you guys can fix it. And if not, then we'll revisit this. And within a couple of weeks, they had just fixed some things on the software side. They maybe not fixed, they changed the way that they were registering like neuron spikes, how they
Yep.
were recording neuron spikes instead of like recording individual neurons that had the highest signal, that had the best signal. They would record groups of neurons,
Right.
and that worked really, really well. And I regained control immediately. Like it
Wow.
was like they literally pulled the lever and everything worked again.
Wow. I mean,
So
that's
yeah,
like, yeah, that's an incredible result. I guess the conclusion is that once you've used it for a while and then it wasn't available, you kind of felt like something is lacking, right? So I want to kind of take that idea deep into the future. And
mm,
if we both imagine a future where BCIs are widely used, so outside of the medical realm, they're widely used, just like we use smart devices these days. I want to kind of draw that parallel because a lot of people today are so dependent on their devices and on online communication, etc. And if you take that away, suddenly they panic. So do you think in a future where most people are connected with some sort of a BCI, can you see kind of not having one being a disadvantage or feeling inadequate in a way compared to others that have them?
absolutely. I think it's not too hard to reach that logical conclusion that if this device is what we want it to be, does produce the fruit that Elon Musk is hoping it will, as well as everyone at Neuralink, of course, someday it will change everything, a lot like the internet did,
Yeah.
or the Industrial Revolution. I think that it will change how we live, how we interact with each other. Just little day-to-day tasks will become much different. And if you don't have a BCI at that point, if you don't have a Neuralink, then your life is in some ways, uh, you are unable to compete in certain arenas, I would say.
Exactly. And you're probably like disconnected, from society. Like,
Mm,
if you're
mhm,
not using the internet today, for example, sure, you can still live your life, but you're kind of disconnected from everything that's
mhm.
happening and from communicating across the globe. I mean, I'm really interested in your views on this kind of like big picture, futuristic idea of a society that uses BCIs widely. And, I've spoken to some people in the business space, and they're like salivating over that idea, as you can imagine. So, to have access, obviously with consent, but to have access to their target market's live neural imprint, they salivate over that. Just like people would salivate over all the data we give away freely now with our devices, 30 years ago. They'll be like, oh, wow, I want to track people's attention and eyeball movement and all of that stuff, and I want to package it up in a data report and sell it to companies. This is what's happening today, right? So you can imagine how, from a business perspective, all of these companies are thinking, well, wouldn't it be incredible to have, live product feedback, for example, that doesn't take a quarterly report to reach me, but it kind of like
Yeah.
streams live, right? I've spoken to some scientists who are saying, whoa, 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 one step at a time, one study at a time. Like let's learn how to crawl and then walk and then run. And obviously, ethicists that are saying, handbrake on right now. We really need
Mhm.
this handbrake up right now because this is too big, too dangerous. Let's not even do anything until we work out the guardrails first. But you're the first person that I've spoken to so far that's actually used Neuralink, that's actually used the N1 chip. So I want to kind of get your perspective. And do you think it's possible? Do you think that's sort of a future where, we use brain chips, no different to the way we use the internet today, and it's just become an everyday thing? Do you think that is likely or possible, say 20, 30 years into the future?
Absolutely. I don't see why not. Um, I guess what I've equated it to a few times in other interviews that I've done is how everything comes off. It's not everything. There are plenty of devices that come off the line today, Alexa compatible. I think that it'll be just like that with Neuralink. Everything will be Neuralink compatible. I mean, it uses a Bluetooth connection. So anything that has a Bluetooth connection, you could interface with. Like, I don't see how you could not get excited about that and envision this future where so many things are possible. It's hard to even imagine like what that future looks like. I mean, when the internet first was released, I guess there's no way anyone could have been able to predict what it would become. I think it is very similar with Neuralink, but if we're just, having fun with it, I don't see why not. Like, I don't
Yeah.
see why we can't imagine people interfacing with cars, robots, all of their devices, doing everything without needing the use of their hands or even talking or just
Yeah. I
sort of
mean,
in the back of their mind, quite literally.
absolutely. I mean, the technology we've got now, say the N1 chip that you're
Mm,
using, you can move a cursor with that, play a video game, right? You can do quite a few things. But let's say we get to N5 or N6 version of the chip. Do you think there might be the ability to potentially share a feeling or a mood with someone? Because we do that now with words. We do that now
mhm.
with, various kind of proxies, I guess, like using language to express a feeling. And sometimes it's difficult to express a feeling because you can't find the words to express it, right? But do you think with like future generations of the Neuralink chips, we'll be able to maybe do that and share like a feeling or a mood or something, with each other?
Absolutely. Um, there, I guess when the day comes that the chips are able to connect with one another, You can, like I said, Bluetooth connection, you just can connect with another chip. You will be able to interface with someone's brain, and that can be very, I mean, the best way I can put it in layman's terms is it'll be really cool. And, right now the chip is implanted in my motor cortex, but soon, some point, they're going to be implanting this chip in other parts of the brain.
I mean, Neuralink just literally, they raised the Series C, I think it was. They raised 650 million for
Mm-hmm.
to progress their work. And there's literally a quote, and I want to read it out off their website that said, part of these funds will be used to progress towards a whole brain interface. We've invested heavily in expanding the number of neurons and brain regions that our devices can interface with to unlock new dimensions of human potential. So they're literally
Mm-hmm.
talking about this. They're literally talking about this future that we're kind of touching up on. And I don't think it's like a crazy sci-fi premise anymore. I really think it's become reality because the early models have proven that they work. So now it's just a matter of kind of like advancing on them. And, everything we've seen with AI and how quickly things are moving at the moment, I have no doubt that that timeline will compress fairly quickly and things will move really, really fast.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. Things are going to move very quickly, especially with the help of AI. I've, like you were saying, a lot of ethics conversations have been brought to my attention with all of this. It's hard to even imagine, put into words like what sort of things we even need to prepare for. There are a lot of places that we can go with this. And one of the only things that I can imagine coming uh, from this as far as like advancing with the ethics conversation is I honestly don't believe that, pulling the handbrake, as you said, is the right approach. Um, it's it might be scary to say, but I think we just have to go until something goes wrong, and then we address it. That I think that there's a lot that we can do in the meantime, but by no means do we stop doing what we're doing. We stop pushing the envelope. By no means do we stop exploring. I think that there are things that we can do. I think that there are steps that we can take, but we have no
Yes.
idea like what exactly we even need a plan for. We
Yeah.
pulled the handbrake today. It's like, okay, well then, like, what are we protecting? And it's like, okay, we spend 5 years hammering that out, and then tomorrow there's a whole new list of things that we need to prepare for because the technology has progressed one step farther. And if that's the case, then we're never going to get anywhere.
Do you use AI yourself, like, Grok or ChatGPT and all of
I
those?
do. I
Yep.
do. I play
Yep.
around with it. I
Yep.
dabble.
You dabble in it. Um, Ray Kurzweil talks about the singularity. He does have one line in the latest book, The Singularity is Nearer, that says, we're not going to reach the singularity until AI and BCIs converge. At the moment, we've kind of plugged in BCIs and we use AIs through our senses. So, we use vision, right? And sound and voice and things like that, which are fairly limited communication channels. So would you be open, and sounds like you've been incredibly brave so far, but if there was a test where they say, hey, Nolan, all right, we want to kind of plug in this AI system and see how it talks to your brain and potentially automate some of the work that your brain does, so it doesn't have to burn as much glucose in your daily life. Have you thought about that?
I've thought a little bit about it. I think that that is the direction we're headed. I think that someday this is what our future holds. Like, this is where all of this is, I guess, will culminate at some point. I I don't know what that looks like or when it'll happen. I am more than happy to um, be the guinea pig, as I already have been. I'm not sure how much Neuralink wants to like use me anymore for these things. I'm not sure if they want to, I was the first person to do this. Maybe they'll choose someone else to do it in the future. That's perfectly fine. I think that, being able to use AI to integrate with the BCI in your brain, there just opens up so many new doors. And it's really exciting to me, at least, what humans will be capable of with this technology. I mean, since the beginning, I've said that the technology isn't what's evil. Humans are evil. We do good and we do bad. I think this will be used for far more good than it will be for bad. And so when I'm thinking about that and then integrating with AI, it's sort of unfathomable how people will be able to use this in the future. What sort of doors it'll unlock with the brain and what we can learn about the brain. I mean, we're learning so much just from this study.
True.
You put AI into that equation and like it's already being exponentially, like the growth that we are learning with the brain is exponential at this point. You go, plug in AI to it and it's like order of magnitudes more that we're learning so much that like we're just going to have to try to keep up with it all.
Yes.
But it's just like, I'm really excited for that. I'm holding out for the day that AI plays a bigger role in all of this. Cause I think it'll solve a lot of problems maybe that we're having with BCIs right now. Just things that we don't understand about the brain that AI would be able to diagnose in seconds.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, so
I
it would be
absolutely
really cool.
love your enthusiasm about all things science and AI and BCI and the future of humans in general. And it's really refreshing to kind of hear because, like I said, when you research these things, there's a lot of handbrakes along the way. And here you are super enthusiastic and super positive about it. And I absolutely love that. It's really, really good to hear. So
Yeah, thanks, man. I mean, it's I feel like I am an incredibly small part in all of this. There's so much more happening. There's so many more people that are pushing these things forward that are doing the hard work. I just get to play around with cool toys. People are doing a lot of research. They are finding new ways to make these things a reality. And there are people on the other side who are finding ways to make sure that, like you said, we use it responsibly, that we move forward responsibly. And all of these things together are what is going to make this successful. Of course, we need people like me who are willing to take on that risk. But again, like I, I have never felt like any sort of brave human. People have said I'm like one of the first Apollo astronauts. I'm like, no, I'm not. Like it's not what I am at all.
a small
I'm
step
just,
for man. Yeah.
yeah, I'm just one guy that decided like, yeah, sure, why not? Like this sounds pretty cool. And now I get to just have fun and I get to find ways to improve my life and talk to incredibly smart people. I mean, this is just a dream come true for me.
Well, look, I think
Yeah,
you're being a little bit humble. I think what you've done is incredibly brave. It's really, really brave. And
thank you.
the positivity that comes out of you afterwards in all these interviews, I think that's another layer of awesome that you've put on top, right? So it's not like you've done the study and you're happy with the use of the chip and you just kind of like sit there in the background, right? But you're kind of advocating not just for Neuralink, but for BCIs in general. And that's incredibly positive because it comes from someone that's used it, right? It's not a theorist. It's not someone like myself that's researching and writing about things. You've actually used it. And that's why it's even more powerful. On the use of the Neuralink chip, I want to ask you one thing. In terms of side effects, and I don't mean like medical side effects that people are monitoring at this study. I mean side effects that we may not be aware of yet. I'll give you an example, like, with screens and devices. We didn't really talk about blue light being bad for you until we've had a few decades of blue light use.
Mhm.
And then we said, hey, maybe tone down the blue light a little bit. And, all these laptop and phone companies started introducing settings that have more warm lighted stuff. Is there anything you've picked up so far by using the N1 chip that could be something that was an unknown kind of side effect?
I mean, the easy answer is no. Um, I haven't seen anything. I get this question a lot. Like, does using the device, make you more tired? You're using your brain a lot more. You are uh, obviously like putting a lot of stress on your brain by using it constantly and doing all of these things. And I mean, no, like if anything, um, it's helped me be more productive. It's helped me be more aware. And I mean, one thing I'll say is that it's probably affected my sleep.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think I get a lot less sleep because I'm just constantly using it. I mean, I'm making up for like 8 years of not being able to do a whole lot. So
Yeah.
I'm living I'm living like very um, irresponsibly, I would say, with how much I use it. But like I don't know. I know where you're coming from with like, there's not enough data on these things. We don't know what kind of side effects it is having, what it's doing to our brains, what having a chip in there
Yeah.
long term really looks like. I've thought about these things. I thought, you know, what does it look like in 10 years? Will we find that there are all of these issues that it brings up, medical issues or psychological issues or like all sorts of things? I've thought about all of this. I think about it all the time. Um, but that's kind of what I'm here for. I'm kind of here to be the one to say, like, okay, I'll take on that risk. 10 years down the road, look at my brain, 50 years down the road when I'm no longer here, like study my brain. I basically promised my brain to Neuralink at this point. I'm like, if you guys want it, you guys can have it. Like,
Yeah.
do as much study as you possibly can on it because that's what I want to do. That's why I did this. I want to be the one that takes on those risks and people learn from. If you don't think it's safe, then let me try it. And in 50 years, you can find out whether or not it's safe. One thing that I am really interested to learn about when they study my brain, um, whether that's like under brain scans, while I'm alive or in my brain after I'm dead, is what it is doing to different parts of my brain. Um, like obviously the brain is plastic. Obviously, the more you use certain parts of your brain, um, like it changes your brain makeup. It changes different parts, like how different parts of your brain develop or how they grow. One thing that I've always thought of is like there was this I don't know where I heard it, but someone was talking about at one point how when you do things that you don't want to do, a part of your brain grows like every time. Every time you do something that you don't want to do, there's a part of your brain that grows. And the more you do that, the bigger that part of your brain gets. And it makes doing these things a bit easier. And I think, well, the more I'm using my brain doing these very, very specific tasks, using this device in a very particular way, like, is that going to change my brain in some ways? One part of my brain just going to be massive by the time I'm dead is it's just going to be completely like a new brain makeup altogether. Like I've thought about these things and I don't know. We're
Yeah.
gonna have to see, honestly.
I mean, like if you look at evolution, these things have happened, but over many, many thousands of years, right? The
Hmm.
frontal cortex has been growing, right? Because we
Hmm.
use it more and etc. I don't think it will happen in a lifetime, but you never know. You never know with this
Yeah,
technology.
yeah.
I want to ask you kind of like a philosophical question about identity. I know you
Mm,
joke about being a cyborg, and that's like your
yeah,
handle on X. And you had a funny post about cyborgs only. I think it was a dating site, right? Uh,
yeah, yeah.
so all jokes aside, do you feel like your identity has changed? I'm not talking about the public persona of Noland Arbaugh. I'm talking about the way you see yourself.
Y- Yes and no. I mean, in so many ways, yes. And just how I perceive myself, what I feel like I'm capable of, what I feel like I my purpose is. how much I've grown as a person through all this. I think that has all changed. I mean, that is a huge part of like how we perceive ourselves, like our identities. It has a lot to do with our just our psychology. Like, am I doing something every day that's worthwhile, that has purpose? I think all of that has definitely changed. It's improved in many, many, many ways. As far as like more philosophically, like I'm a cyborg now. Does that change how I view myself, apart from, or I guess in line with humanity? Things of that nature? Not really. I mean, it hasn't really. I see a future where it can, as these things become more widespread. There can definitely be some identity groups that pop up there. Um, it can change how people perceive themselves and perceive others. I think there's a huge, I guess, rabbit hole you could go down as far as like what it means to be alive, to be conscious, and if all of these things are happening on the back end without you even thinking about them, kind of subconsciously, and the chip can pick up on all those and like make actions on its own without you thinking,
Right.
or before you even realize that you've had the thought. Like, what does that mean as far as like human individuality and like free will and things? I've heard these things brought up. I've thought about them as well. There's a lot of fun fun debate you can get into with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And also like
I yeah,
the biological side of life. You know,
yeah,
there's kind of, if you look at longer term charts, people spend less time in IRL, in real life, and
yep,
kind of like use our biological body less and less and spend more time online in a digital realm, right? So I think BCIs maybe, well, definitely will accelerate that trend, you know,
mhm.
will accelerate that trend to the point where potentially the biological is kind of maybe even redundant to a point, you know. Um,
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. These sorts of things, like I'm not sure what the future with Neuralink holds and what that looks like, but in my mind, it's always been a tool. And I think that, like as all technology is, and I think that humans will use it for incredible things. And it may change how we interact with each other. It may change what our social lives look like. It may change a lot. Um, but I wouldn't say that it necessarily has to be a bad thing. I just think it'll be different. And humans, if nothing else, are incredibly adaptable, and we will adapt to extreme environments constantly to preserve life, or just because we want to, honestly.
yeah.
Like, there's no reason that people need to live in extreme cold or extreme heat. Sometimes, there are, I guess I shouldn't say there's no reason. Sometimes there are reasons, but there are plenty of people who do it just because they want to. Uh, and so when I think about like Neuralink and what that means for the future and what that means for like identity and, I guess how we interact with the world in general, like, does that mean we're not going to touch grass as much? I don't know, maybe. Or does it mean that we're going to use it in ways that allow us to be out in nature constantly and still be connected digitally? Like, I think that there are plenty of really, really fun thought experiments to have with this. And I think that people will surprise you in the end. People will use it to better humanity, to better the planet, to become better people just overall. Like, I don't know. I'm really optimistic about it. Um, that's just
Sounds
me.
incredible. Yeah, I'm completely aligned with your thoughts on that. Sounds incredible. Speaking of using it, I would love to do a little exercise together, kind
Yeah.
of co-create some art. So let me just bring up a whiteboard.
Yeah. Let's see what we can do.
Great.
I can't promise anything, but we'll see what I'm capable of. All right. So,
So the cursor moving is obviously you're using the N1 chip Neuralink, right?
yes.
Wow. Super cool.
Wonder what this looks like. Okay, let's see what I can do here. So these are all like little dots here. Ooh, okay. I am not artistic at all. So
Sorry, I'm
I
just
don't,
fascinated by that movement. It's obviously not new to you, but just witnessing like Neuralink
yeah.
on chip being controlled by your thoughts is incredible. It's
Yeah. You know, like I forget that people like haven't seen this constantly. Like I think like, oh yeah, like this is just my life. This is how I use it. This is what I do with it. And every now and again I'll see people that I guess I'll use it around someone who's never seen it before and their jaws drop. And I'm like, oh yeah, you haven't seen this before, have you? You don't understand what I'm doing here.
it is incredible.
Okay. I don't even know what I'm trying to draw here. So that,
Great.
and then maybe one of these there. And yeah. Okay, I'm gonna need some direction because this is just gonna become incredibly abstract if
Well,
I don't have some sort of
let me. Kind of looks like a flower stem to me. So maybe
you
I'll
know,
add a
that's what
little.
I was
Right.
going for.
Maybe we'll add like a little one of these. Kind of cute.
Oh yeah, look at that. Okay. Let's see. What if I do this one? And then I can add like just a couple of little entrails down here. Here we go. There.
That's so cool. I think it's kind of like abstract enough to hold some mysterious art value, right? um, I think it's amazing. I've been trying to kind of like watch your face while you do this. It's fascinating to see, your kind of like head movement and how you approach the cursor movement on video. It's really, really cool.
Go,
There you go.
go, and this one too. Go, and then, well, I don't know. This, sorry, I'm just gonna get carried away if you just
Yeah.
let me keep doing this.
Oh, yeah, please.
And then, down, and then what happens around flowers? Yeah, it'll,
That is amazing. When
yeah.
you click, how do you click? Obviously, movement is one thing, but when you click and kind of continue, is that just what sort of a command?
Yeah, so right now I am just I have like a couple different clicks. So this is like I have a click and drag. So that when I was pulling up earlier, there was like a little nudge, and that is just a slow click and drag. Then drag is much quicker. And so yeah. And then my clicks themselves are like when I think about clicks, I think of like um, a couple different actions that I do with clicks. One of them is like my thumb out to the left, say, and another one is my pinky out to the right. So it'll be my left and my right clicks, respectively. Well, it didn't turn out like I wanted it to.
Sorry,
I'm
I'm distracting you with conversation.
no, like I'm just not an artist, so like I never was before I was a quadriplegic. Like I am just not artistic at all. So when I'm thinking about like how do I want to make this look, I have very poor sort of direction, I guess you could say. So
I think it looks really cool. I really like it.
yeah.
You got nice smiley face as well. Beautiful.
Oh well, I don't know what that is, guys. Just hey, I have a thingy.
Let me see
over
how.
here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so much better. Thank you. Forgot I could like do this. Oh, perfect. Oh, much better. Okay, let's get rid of some of these too. I won't need all of these, I don't think. There we go. And maybe that one. Careful there, don't delete the wrong one. Perfect. Don't know what you are either, so I'm just gonna just mix that all together. Okay. Yeah, so I have like a couple different actions that I calibrate to generally. So like the left click, right click, I have a middle click. So I have like 3 clicks and then cursor control. Um, and yeah, that's basically it. Like just very simple. And then I have a little mode switcher that I hop into, and mode switcher is basically just like how I get to like different actions. Like I want to zoom in, or I want to drag, or I want to do different things. And so the mode switcher kind of does that for me.
And I've noticed you use voice to activate it, right? Cursor on and cursor
Yes.
off. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just like I have voice controls. Obviously, some of the other, well, I know for sure like P3 doesn't have any sort of voice control. Um, and so like they've found different ways to um, allow him to control the device. And so like I do things like by voice command a lot that he obviously doesn't do. But it is, I think that they are just exploring different ways to like let different kinds of people use this.
Right. Yes. But the reason you would turn it off and say cursor off is obviously so it doesn't do things on its own while you're not intending for it to move, right?
Yeah, that I did get like stuck there for a second. I'm not sure what it was doing. So I used it to like just kind of reset the cursor, like, hey, like, what are you doing over there? Um and yeah, like there are a few different commands that I have for different things, like connecting it, disconnecting it, things of that nature. So like it it all I've gotten really used to like doing, oh no, I've gotten really used to doing some things like that. But there are a lot of different um little features that they've added to this along the way. So it's been like a lot of fun to sort of play around with, and especially like as more participants come in, they like give their own sort of advice about things that they want and everything, and they're like, okay, well, I want um like I want the ability to do this, or it would be really cool if we could do that.
Right.
And so like their Neuralink's like, wow, that's really cool. Like, let's do that. And there are things that, like I'm like, oh, like I didn't think about that. That's a great idea. So it's always better like to have more people in this.
Yeah.
Uh, I think it's made a huge difference in like the progression of like what the implant has become, what the device has become. So yeah, it's been really cool to be a part of this and get like new people in here.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you're enjoying this, and I'm loving watching it, witnessing you do this,
Yeah,
growing with your mind. It's purely incredible. So
yeah. I'm not gonna keep it here all day though. Let me finish
yeah,
this
yeah,
guy,
yeah.
and then maybe
I think it's a masterpiece already. I think it's really cool. It's really cool. Like everything postmodernism kind of looks like this. So,
yeah,
that's,
yep. It's very
yeah.
postmodern.
Let me see. Right. Well, this is being recorded, so I can just screenshot it later or save it.
Cool.
Okay, cool. So thanks so much for joining me today. I'm kind of enthused even more about BCIs after speaking with you. I love your pure view of the brightness of the future that's ahead of us with these devices. And I truly believe that BCIs will make us more human, not less. And I think you've expressed that a couple of times today as well. And that's really incredible technology. We can spend all this time and resources building bigger buildings and longer bridges and rockets. All of that is very important, of course. But tech like this that makes us a little more human than we were yesterday, I think it's fundamentally more valuable to us. So I want to thank you for joining me today. but also for bravely contributing to humanity's most exciting quest, perhaps. So,
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Thanks for reaching out. And thanks for, just being interested in the technology and diving in and meeting with incredible people in the field and doing your research and writing your book, like you said. Like, all of these things are going to make a huge impact on the future and like where the technology goes and uh, what people know about it. Like, just being informed and having somewhere to go and like see these things, see them in action, and listen to people talk about it. Like, you're doing that, and I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you like reaching out. This has been a lot of fun.
a lot of fun. I loved connecting with you today. Nolan, we'll definitely keep in touch. And I'll send you a copy of this drawing. All the best.
Yeah, you too, man. Take it
All
easy.
right. See ya. Bye.